Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of On the Come Up with KG. And today we have a very special guest. Here's my friend Muse, and I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Yo, what's going on, people? My name is Moose. People know me as Brian. I'm a photographer based in the DC slash DFW area. And thank you, KG, for having me.
Mhm. Okay, so are you excited to be here?
I'm so excited.
I'm
I'm so
kind of
excited. So I woke up
nervous.
this morning, jumped in, skipping on the way to KG's house.
No, let me tell you guys, he asked us if we can move it back to 12. We were supposed to start filming at 1. He asked us to move it back, and he was still late.
Yikes. 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 I don't know what to say.
That's color people
Yikes.
time for you. So, yeah. Okay, so where are you from originally?
I'm originally from the UK. I'm originally from Northwest London, a place called Luton. But now I went to school in the DMV. I went to Morgan State. Shout out the Bears. Let's go. And yeah,
Okay. So when you decided that you wanted to come to the US for college, was that like groundbreaking news to anybody?
it was like I don't know, when I first decided I want to go to school here, I was like kind of nervous, but TV, what you see on TV is different from going to HBCU. So it's like I spent like a big party school, like I don't know what's expecting, but going to HBCU, especially Morgan, it really opened my eyes that like, there's different types of black people. So in the UK, we don't really see that. So we don't really have HBCUs in London. So I guess that's kind of like really interesting to experience.
And what is black culture like in London?
So black culture in London is very different. So if you're black in London, you're either African or Caribbean.
Mm.
But I feel like here you can either be just straight black, or you can be African, you can be Caribbean or whatever. So like here, there's like the word black is like there's more different types of black. You
Yeah.
feel me? So yeah,
And then it's crazy because you went from the UK to a HBCU. It's not like you came here and went to like a PWI. So you really got to
exactly,
get the gist
exactly.
of how many different types of black people. Because I'm assuming that you had a different perspective of what African Americans were like before you moved to the UK or moved from the UK.
Honestly, so in the UK, we just have the stereotype of African Americans. So we just see like we think like African Americans like people have like driving these like cars with these big wheels, gold teeth, chains dripped out. So like coming to America, I realized like that's not really the stigma.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of really opened my eyes about that.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, again, though, like when you told your family or your friends that you were deciding to go to the US for college, was that like major for them? Were they nervous, scared? Because when I left from California, that was like groundbreaking news. Like everybody's like, "What? You're leaving?"
I think for my family, I think they're more so scared because like we see on TV about like the police brutality and stuff, how like cops speaking to black people.
Hmm.
So I feel like they were mainly scared that that could be the case for me. But just more so like how to give them reassurance that's no like I know there's an issue, but I'll be okay. Like let me spread my wings and grow. Let
Yeah.
me experience a different side of the world, different culture. So definitely happy about that.
And so, how did you know about HBCUs?
Honestly, I didn't. I'm not
You
gonna lie to
didn't?
you. So at the time I applied for Morgan, I had a choice of either University of Maryland,
Mm.
Howard or Morgan State. But Howard is just like crazy money, and coming from being an international student, that is crazy. UMD is in the area as well, so it's also a PWI. But Morgan just gave like a perfect mix of like the two, and also being in Baltimore as well is like completely different. So yeah.
Okay, so I have this is kind of off, but have you been introduced to any music, like Baltimore music?
Oh my gosh, I hate Baltimore music. I feel like that's for me.
Really?
Yes, I feel like the accents really throw me off. Like the two
It doesn't remind
Abby.
you of like UK
No,
slang.
why do people say that? I don't hear what people hear. Like people say that Baltimore's like a ghetto British accent, but I disagree. I hate the Baltimore accent so much.
I also agree though. I think Baltimore has like the worst accent in the whole
No,
United States.
they really do. They really do. I just like, yeah, like sometimes like what are you even saying?
No, yeah, for sure. But I'm not too familiar with music in Baltimore, but I do know. Have you heard of Shorty Shorty?
No,
No?
no.
I love Shorty
Mm-mm.
Shorty, but he has a real West Coast sound. Like if you listen to him,
He's
you
from
think he's
Baltimore?
from the West Coast, but he's from Baltimore.
I
Yeah.
never heard of him.
He's dope.
Is he that big?
Maybe. I feel like I know him a lot because I'm from California and
Hmm.
we have a really particular sound. And he just sounds like
Really?
he's from the West Coast, yeah.
Okay,
So you should
interesting.
check him out. That's good. That's good. Okay, so this is gonna be like a tough question, but I want you to be honest. How was your education experience
At Morgan?
at Morgan? Like, and like raw. Like, do you feel like you were really challenged?
Not really. I feel like school in America is fairly easy. So
Mm,
before Morgan, I went to a community college.
mm-hmm.
So that was still fairly easy also. But I feel like just the education aspect, it was okay, but the admin was terrible. So someone told me there's like a stigma
No, that's an
with
HBCU
HBCUs. There's like
experience
admin is terrible. Like, even
for
this past December, I
sure.
wasn't meant to graduate. My professor really was really prepared to allow me to stay an extra semester for one class.
I did the same thing.
I
Shut
was like,
up.
what? For
I did.
one class?
Yes, and it was online.
That's why it was an online class. I said it's never that deep. It's never that deep. And
Same, same,
then at the
same.
last minute, she came through, and then your boy graduated.
Yeah, you can never get them on the phone. Financial aid, terrible.
My thing is, they say email. If people are working from home, right?
Uh-huh.
What are they doing the whole day? If I'm checking the emails.
Yo, they let that phone ring like it's so crazy. Okay, so yeah, I went to school. I went to high school in California, and then I did college in Louisiana, which I think by record has like the worst educational system in the whole United States. And a lot of the people who attend Grambling are from Louisiana. So even the professors would like baby that,
Yeah.
baby them and make things easier for them. And it would be like a professor would ask us to write a 2-page paper and
Mhm.
the students would be in an uproar. Like, that's too much. And I would have to write 10-page papers.
Wait, so was it a culture shock going to school from being from California and going to Louisiana?
So one of the biggest culture shocks I would say honestly is that in California, y'all gonna beat me up for this, but in California, a lot of the black men don't like black women, if we're being real.
I mean, that's like not just in California, but that's everywhere though.
But it's very apparent in California. It's like,
Really?
yeah, like they want mixed women or racially ambiguous women or Latino
That's crazy.
women.
So I've only been in Texas for a couple of days. I realized that is the case here, especially in
Really?
DFW. Yeah, like yesterday I went out to Deep Ellum. There's loads of black men, white. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. I'm just saying that's like,
It's different.
yeah, it's different
Mm.
exactly. So in DC, um, we love black women. In
Mhm.
London, we love black
Mm.
women also. So
Yeah, so when I went to Louisiana, it was like, oh shit, you think I'm attractive, actually?
really,
Yeah, like that
so
was
the athletes there at your school, right? Were
mm,
they with black women or they were with white
yeah,
girls?
everyone's black. Like everyone's black, everyone loves black women. And that was very like that was a culture shock to me. I think that really helped my confidence because back at home I lived in a predominantly Hispanic area. So it was like I was always when all my friends were dating, all my best friends who were also Hispanic, I was not dating because I just
Was they
wasn't.
Hispanic?
Yeah.
You didn't date them because they were Hispanic?
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay,
Don't clip that.
okay.
No, I'm saying like I wasn't attracted to them because I wasn't Hispanic. You
Oh,
get what I'm
okay.
saying? So I wasn't like the chosen one, or I wasn't the standard of beauty.
Hmm.
So when I moved to Louisiana and like in the deep south, the standard of beauty is more women who look like me, like dark skin,
Really? In the
black
South?
features. Yeah.
Listen, this is my first time in the South, so I'm still yet to experience that, like how people really operate out down here.
Hmm.
I'm just so used to being in the DMV, so yeah,
Yeah. So that was probably the biggest culture shock. And then just little stuff like the music, that was crazy.
really.
Yeah,
So how does like California music compare to down south
it's
music?
so different.
Really?
People in Louisiana specifically hate West Coast music. Like they think it's
Well, what's
hot
West Coast been like?
garbage.
Like Tiger, G-Eazy, YG? No? Okay.
YG, okay, yes, you can say YG, but he has definitely made his sound more mainstream over the years. But if you go back to like I want to say like 2000, even 14, 15, YG, like that was West Coast music. That's the epitome of West Coast music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but now you have more artists that kind of evolved from that sound, like Blast, Bino, and even Shorty Shorty. Even though he's not from the West Coast, he still emulates that like
Okay,
ultimate
that
West Coast
West Coast
sound.
sound.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
But they don't like it. They absolutely hate it. They think it's trash. I am okay with Louisiana music, but the thing about Louisiana people is that they're very like honestly they're small-minded. And so they just
In
think
Louisiana, really?
yeah, they
I'm
just think
surprised.
about where they're from and what they do and what they listen to. That's the only thing that appeals to them. So anything outside of Louisiana culture is like mm. And
Hmm.
they're so stuck and like back in the day. Like they're not
Back
really
in the day.
progressive. I feel like, especially if coming from California, we're constantly progressing. Like California is just that state that's always like, what's the next best thing? And Louisiana is just not like that.
So
But
how far was your school from St. Orleans, New Orleans?
about 4 hours.
How far are you from Xavier?
About 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
But I love New Orleans. I love Louisiana culture. Don't get me wrong. Louisiana is one of the places I think in the United States that really has its own authentic, raw culture, so different from anybody else.
Debatable. I think the DMV has its own little culture.
I've never been.
I feel like the DMV, you have to be there to really understand what I'm talking about. Like it has its like the vibes are really unmatched. You
I want to
can't
go.
nothing can ever compare.
But if you go to New Orleans, you're gonna say the same thing. If you go
Really?
to New Orleans, you're gonna feel like you're out the country. You're not even feel like you're in the states
New
anymore.
Orleans? Really?
Swear to God.
Was it the weather?
It's not the weather, it's the people, it's the accent, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the mannerisms, it's the everything. Like New Orleans is such a beautiful place. Louisiana in general is really genuinely like a beautiful place because there is submersed in so much culture
Yeah.
and history. Like by all means, I know I be talking my shit here and there, but I love Louisiana. Like it really is a beautiful place,
Would
and
you
I
ever
feel like
move to Louisiana?
no.
No.
No, I would not move there permanently. I lived there for 4 years and that
Mhm.
was good enough for me and I appreciate it. I love it. I feel like a lot of people should experience Louisiana for what it is, especially New Orleans. But yeah,
Interesting.
everybody should go to New Orleans. New Orleans is beautiful. And I don't mean like Bourbon Street and, typical New Orleans things. I mean like find a friend who's born and raised from New Orleans and go spend a day with them. Because that's what changed my perspective of New Orleans. I've been there like multiple times, year and year again, but I have a friend who was actually born and raised in New Orleans,
Hmm.
and her family is just beautiful. Like her mom was giving us a little bit of history,
Hmm.
and her family was so welcoming. We went to a family party. They had crawfish boil,
Hmm.
music, like beautiful culture. I love it.
Interesting.
Okay, so how do you feel about Dallas thus far?
How far about Dallas? When I first got here, it was so cold. I was like, I'm really wearing a thick jacket. Like you people said it's warm down here, but it's actually freezing.
Mm.
And then on Thursday, there was a tornado warning. I was like, what is really going
And now
on?
it's like hot as hell.
Yeah, it's so nice outside, but Dallas itself has just been different. It's just the culture here is really different. So yesterday I went to Deep Ellum and I was shocked to see guys in like these like cars with these big wheels. I'm like, how is
What's your
this?
your worst nightmare when you think in
Yes, I was like,
UK?
what is this? This is not cool. Like if we were back in
2002, maybe.
exactly like let that shit go, bro. And then in London we don't have that. In the DMV, I'm like, yo, that's so lame. But in Texas, that's normal. You guys like that, or maybe a southern thing, really. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's so lame.
Yeah, I think you have to get like, because I personally, I'm not from Dallas, but I think I kind of told you this before, how I get offended when people say they don't like Dallas. Like, I love Dallas. I really do.
You've been here for like what, 2 years now?
A year
A
and some
year? Yes,
change.
okay,
I
okay.
love Dallas, and I don't see myself living here permanently or even like long term, but I love it.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay, so if you were to move, where would you go?
I want to move back to California.
Really? So expensive over there, though.
That's I don't worry about numbers.
Really?
That's
The weather?
it's my family,
Your
really.
family?
I
Okay.
grew up in a really big family. I have 10 siblings, all
Hmm.
same mom, two-parent household, and my siblings are just getting older now. They're having kids. Like our family's
I miss that
growing.
season, you know. Everyone's having kids, getting married.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm just like, I feel like I'm missing out, and I'm very family oriented, so I want to go back to college. And I just couldn't see myself, like, eventually when I get married and have kids, I couldn't see myself raising my family away from my immediate
From
family.
California.
Because I grew up that way, like grandma, aunts, uncles.
Honestly, I think about being in Dallas for the next couple of years, honestly.
Mm.
If I go back to London, maybe later on in life, when I want to settle and have a family. But my heart is the DMV. I see myself returning back there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
honestly, like I
good.
just love the DMV so much,
I
and
gotta visit.
I don't know, maybe I don't know. I feel like I'm biased right now because I keep talking about it, but the DMV is really where it's at.
I hear only good things about it though. Like I've never really heard
It's
bad
the
things
best place
about
in
it, so
America.
I believe you.
It's the best place in America,
In
without a doubt.
America, okay.
Yeah.
Where else have you been?
I've been to Florida. I've been to Georgia. I've been to Oregon. I love Oregon. Oregon is just so green.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I went to Portland. It's beautiful. I went to Chicago. I went to been to New York. I've been to now Texas. Now I live here. Um, yeah, not many places. I don't really be traveling. I want to start traveling more,
You
but
should.
I don't really be traveling like that.
You gotta, well, I don't know. People, of course, people want to go to LA, but I feel like when people go to LA, they already have this preconceived notion of like Hollywood and celebrities and that type of life. So I feel like you don't really get the whole LA experience. But if you want like real LA, I feel like anytime you go somewhere, you have to meet somebody who's actually from there.
What's real LA though?
Real LA, that's a good question. Real LA, honestly, is like gang banging.
Gangbanging?
Yeah, but it's like gang banging, but it's also like street food. It's also like dance, like getting crunk. It's all types of stuff.
Getting crunk?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a dance. I'm not gonna physically demonstrate what it is.
Is it like I remember is it like jerking in a way? I know you guys were big on
Kinda.
that.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So
no.
it's not like jerking?
No. Have you heard of Tommy the Clown? Probably
Tommy
not.
the Clown?
Yeah,
No.
probably not.
No.
So when on your free time, look it up. But there's like a real authentic LA culture that I feel like a lot of people miss. And just like, okay, so whenever you see women with a bunch of gold, like these earrings that I have in, these gold nugget heart-shaped earrings, this
Mhm.
is like real California LA culture. Like the gold nugget culture, bunch of gold chains, long
Really?
nails. Yeah, like you have to really know people from wherever it is that you're visiting to really like submerge in their culture.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what everybody's missing because people go to LA and be like, it's boring. But for me, it's like, again, my family's there
Hmm.
and there's things to do and like places to see and just that whole overall like aesthetic of being in California. Like you can go to the beach and you can go snowboarding.
I heard the beaches are crazy in California.
Yeah, you can go to the beach, you can go snowboarding, and you can go to the desert in like one day.
Yeah, that's excessive. That's kind of crazy.
You know, the
That's so
weather's pretty
crazy.
much always nice.
Hmm.
Everybody is liberal for the most part, so it's like not too much like rules about like, or how do I say it, like discrimination and stuff like that. Like everyone's mostly liberal, progressive, like all the when they talk about abortion rules and stuff, like we're just like, nah, like
Hmm.
we want to keep moving forward. We got like
So California sounds to be very progressive.
it's very progressive. I think don't quote me on this, but I think it is the most progressive state in the United States.
I believe it. I believe it.
Yeah. And so you do photography. That's what we're
I
here to
do
talk
do
about.
photography.
So when did
Yes.
you start doing that?
I actually started in May of last year.
Oh, you just started.
I mean, I've been doing it, but I started officially as like a brand last May.
And what made you do that?
Um, I think I was going through a rough patch in my life. I realized photography really makes me happy. So I was like,
Mm.
let me just do it. And then since then, it's just been straightforward, no looking back.
And so when do you feel like, so now looking back, like in retrospect, when do you think was the first time you realized like you have an eye for photography and like you actually can do this?
I think it's because when my friends asked me to take pictures,
Hmm.
like, hey, yo, move, take the pictures, blah 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 blah. And then the reaction, they show the pictures, like, oh, this shit's fire, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, you guys are really gassing me. You guys think I'm doing something.
Hmm.
These are like iPhone pics. So then I was like, yeah, let me just borrow a camera from my school a couple years ago, and then yeah, that's how it really started for me.
And so do you think it's something that you want to do long term or make a career out of it, or is this something that you just kind of do on the side as a hobby?
Honestly, it's like my dream. I want to do music videos. I want to be like Director X,
Oh,
Flexible Daps. I want to be
yeah,
like Cole Bennett. I want to be like what those guys do.
that's dope.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So I just have a mentor. He said like, listen, in this creative space, it's best to like capture the art of photography first, and
Hmm.
then slowly dive into videos. So in DC, I actually do the big nightclubs in DC, so like Rose Bar, Abigail, any DC club any club in DC, you name it, I've done it.
Okay.
So most recently, I don't know if you listen to Amapiano, the genre. There's this
Hmm.
artist called Uncle Waffles.
Oh, what? I've been
Yeah,
hearing about him on TikTok all day.
yeah, it's a she.
Oh, I've been hearing about her on TikTok.
So her team actually reached out to me. I did a video. So I did a video for her last November, which was actually pretty cool.
Oh,
No, thank you,
congratulations.
thank
That's
you.
good. So it's like, so You went to school for what? Sorry.
Computer science.
Okay. And so do you actually enjoy doing that, or is it just something?
Honestly, it's okay. You know, having like very ethnic parents, they want you to be like an engineer,
Mhm.
lawyer, whatever. So like, I only did computer science just to make them happy.
Something promising.
If I had my way, honestly, I probably wouldn't have gone to school. But it's bad to say. Sorry, mom. But yeah, it's just bad to say. Just like I just did what they wanted it for me. You
Okay.
know, yeah.
But now, so wait, when did you start doing photography? Like, was this before you went to college or after?
So I started before I went to college.
Oh, okay.
So I started before I went to college, then I stopped. I started again when I was in college. So I did like a 3 year break. So I started again my last year of college.
Okay, so that's interesting because I feel like what a lot of people don't talk about college is we say that college is for to help you progress in your career after you graduate. But also, like, a lot of people don't have that experience. Like, it's actually kind of difficult to find a job in your field after college.
It's true. It's true. That's why I say networking is really key.
Yeah,
Like the jobs I've had, I've never really applied for a job. It's just more so just if
who
some
you know.
I know like exactly who I know. So it's very important. Even like my most recent job, someone was like, yeah, you know, I'm looking for someone to come work for me. Just I've never really applied for a job since I've been here.
Yeah, but I feel like the true essence of going to college or what you really get from that is really finding out who you are.
Yeah, you really do find
And
yourself in
you
college.
really
Yeah,
do find yourself, and also you build a community of people. Like, it's that
exactly.
whole life experience that I think is the most important thing
Of
about going to
course, of course,
college
of
is,
course. Like
and a lot of people try to be like, oh, it's because you figure out what career path, but I don't think that's true. I really figure out you figure out really who you are in
you really do
college.
find yourself. Like so, I was only active on campus. So if I was, I would have definitely join some clubs or whatever. So I feel like it's really like think about it, like these people who you go to school with could be like future like CEOs in the future. They could be
Right.
presidents of a country one day. You never know who you meet in
Yeah.
college. So mostly just like exposure, like different types of people, as I was saying
Mhm.
earlier.
Yeah, and I think that's what people need to focus on. Like, I always, especially people from my hometown, I always encourage them if they are gonna go to college to go somewhere away from home. Like,
Really?
yeah, I always say move away from your hometown. Like,
But again,
that's
I moved across the world, so kind of
and
different.
look where you are now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Like, look at all the people you've met. Look at all. Do you think you would have had those same opportunities had you stayed home?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm gonna say maybe on that one.
Hmm.
Um, honestly, I feel like me moving to America was probably the best decision I've ever made. It was like a risk that I took, but I was like, I didn't know how I was gonna end up.
Mm,
I didn't know if this degree is gonna work for me. I didn't know if I was gonna get a job in tech. I wasn't gonna
right.
do it. So it's just more so like I took that risk, and this risk really came through for me. You know.
Yeah, and I think also, for at least from my personal experience, a lot of people from back home think because I make all these risks, because again, me moving from California to Louisiana was like a big deal. Because I feel like where I grew up in California, a lot of the people have like little town syndrome. So it's like everybody grew
Yeah.
up in that area, everybody's parents grew up in that area, everybody's grandparents grew up in there, everybody knows each other. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, we all went to the same elementary, we all went to middle school. And so they have small town syndrome, and nobody can really fathom the idea of leaving, even if it's for a short amount of time. And so when I did, it was like a big deal. But I'm also so different from all of the people who I know. Whenever I go back, they're like, oh my gosh, like they think I'm just, like, oh my gosh, you're so different. Like,
Is it a good different or bad different
it's a
though?
good different because I feel like you're just so confined to a certain way of thinking when you stay in your area.
But, you know, that's good that people think that you're different. Like
Right.
people notice a change in you. That's good.
And
That's
that's
good though.
why I always tell people, like, they're always asking, like, "Oh, what did you do different?" Because I think people oftentimes have a misconception that because I do this, I have it all figured out or I know what I'm doing, and
Mm,
it's the complete opposite. I don't know what I'm doing, but
mhm.
I'm willing to try different shit, you
Of
know?
course, of course, of
I'm willing
course.
to try, I'm willing to move away. I'm willing to be uncomfortable for an amount of time. And I feel like a lot of people are just not, and that's the difference. So
Hmm.
whenever people ask me what it is that I do differently, it's just like move away, get away, like try different
Exactly,
things,
definitely.
like
Step out your comfort zone.
exactly. So yeah, that's crazy. Moving to a different country though,
It's different, honestly. But you
that's
know what? But I
crazy.
don't regret it though. I
Yeah.
really don't regret it. I'm really happy for what I've experienced here in America. The people that I've met, the foods, like just the culture. I'm really something. Honestly, I say to anyone, if you have the chance to travel, do it. You
Do
know what I'm
it.
saying? Experience a whole different culture, immerse in something different.
Mhm. I agree. Okay, that was something else. Okay, so how do I segue into this conversation? Okay. So how serious do you take your like the creative aspect of your life, like photography? Do you feel like you dedicate a lot or enough time to it?
Honestly, I feel like I'm very dedicated in it because
Okay.
I see myself as a perfectionist.
Hmm.
So if I see something I don't like, it really bothers me. It really is something that really, really irks me. To someone else, you'd be like, "Oh, it's not that, but it's not that deep." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's like an art, like,
Yeah.
and it bothers me." So whenever I do photo shoots, usually or any type of creative gig I'm doing, I usually take out 2 hours of my time to really capture what I'm trying to capture. I'm really trying to for it to display my work to see. And yeah, I for any research for any shoot I do, just like most I do some deep research on how I can really capture the best lighting, the best shadows,
Hmm.
colors, everything that comes into play. So people think like taking a photo is just like chill stuff, but
Yeah.
there's so much that goes into behind the scenes, and yeah,
And so how do you think that the amount of time that you put into your craft, how does that affect your relationships, like both platonic and romantic?
it's crazy because I was in a romantic relationship, so my ex she was very supportive on what I did, but she felt that it got to the point that all I ever spoke about was photography or hey,
Mhm.
what do you think of this? So I felt like she felt like I don't really have also really have time for what she had to say or anything else. She felt like if it wasn't about anything creative, there was nothing really to talk about.
Mhm.
So I guess that's romantic. Friendship wise, my friends are really, really supportive.
Okay.
My friends are really um most excited to see stuff on like stuff like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
working on this. What do you think? Most really supporting the brand, really. So yeah.
Okay, because yeah, I have some creative friends, and I think by human nature, eventually, even if you say at a certain time in your life you're gonna focus on your craft or like honing in on your craft, right?
Hmm.
By human nature, eventually you want to have some sort of companionship, so then you start getting into relationships and stuff like that. And then I think a common thing that I see time and time again is that you go down that route and then you realize being romantic, especially romantically involved with another person,
Hmm.
is going to take up a lot of your time.
Yeah, it does.
Like
It
no
does.
matter how, what that person feels entitled to your time.
Hmm.
Rightfully so. Like if you're going to commit to this person and say this is what we're doing, they want a decent amount of your time. And it's always like this tug of war because it's like, okay, I do need the companionship, but at the same time,
Hmm.
I need to focus on this. So do you feel like it has to be an either or do you feel like it just has to be a certain type of person that's going to be okay with the fact that you have something that you prioritize over the relationship?
That's a good question, actually. I think it's just more so not really the type of person, just more so I feel like it comes down within. You have to really find a balance. I feel like
Mm,
you need to find a balance whether like okay, no, it's time to really spend time with this person, but it's also time to really do what I need to do. So like, it's okay to talk about it. Like if your partner is um receptive and interested, sure. But I would say don't overdo it.
yeah.
I don't know if that really answers your question, but
Yeah. Okay, no. That definitely answers the question. Okay, so what is your belief system?
I'm a Christian.
Okay. And so do you think that whenever you create or whenever you're in the mindset of creating, do you feel like that brings you closer to God? Because I've heard people before say that creating makes them feel closer to God because we know that God is creating, He created us.
I've never really thought of it that way. Just more so like whenever I pray, just more so like ask God like, hey God, give me these I say thank you really. I
Hmm.
feel like thank you for giving me like this gift of talent really to be able to do what I need to do. Thank you for providing me with the support, like, the people who I meet and stuff like that. But I wouldn't really go that far for what you're saying, like to compare to put those
Yeah.
two together. So
Yeah. Because I think I see it as in terms of like the way that I view it is I feel like just the more that I pursue wanting to know myself,
mhm.
simultaneously, I'm learning more about God. So if I'm figuring out who I am, like I'm subconsciously figuring out who God is because
Of
he,
course.
he created me. And I feel like that's interesting because as I figure out what I like to do and what I want to put out and what I want to contribute to society or the world, I want it to be a reflection of God all the time.
Of course.
That's my whole thing. So that's why I asked.
Cool. Cool.
Thank you everybody for tuning in for the first episode of On the Come Up with KG. I'm KG.
And I'm Moose.
And I plan on releasing content every week. So follow us on TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever you hear your podcast. And we'll see you on next week's episode of On the Come Up with KG.